going on, everybody? Joseph Embiid here for Worldwide Sport Updates, your podcast, your news, your local community. Worldwide Sport Updates, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Your host, Joey Hadid, here on this podcast edition of your Friday morning. I hope everybody had a great week and ready to start the weekend. TGIF indeed, ladies and gentlemen. And let's start and recap what a long week we just had. First, with some NBA news. 5-star matchups. That would be fun in the 2022 playoffs, as the playoffs are close and near for the NBA picture. Joel Embiid versus Kevin Durant. Going back to Durant's time with the Golden State Warriors, he is 5-2 against Embiid head-to-head, including 3-1 this season. A matchup between these two in the playoffs could be epic. And we all know to expect plenty of talking back and forth between them. Durant has already endorsed Embiid for MVP. But he'd like nothing more than to not come out of the postseason. Other moving parts only add to the drama. What if Ben Simmons is healthy enough to contribute for the Nets against his former 76ers teammates? Jason Tatum versus Jimmy Butler. Tatum could enter the playoffs on fire if he continues his recent stretch of dominance. He was named Eastern Conference Player of the Week for the second consecutive week on Monday, becoming the first player in Celtics franchise history to do so in back-to-back weeks. Butler, meanwhile, has been up and down for the Miami team that had lost 4 in a row going into Monday's win over Sacramento. Butler has scored in single digits 6 times this season. The last time Butler and Tatum met in the postseason, the Heat eliminated Boston from the 2020 Eastern Conference Finals in 6 games. Kevin Durant versus Giannis Antetokounmpo. Who wouldn't take 7 more games between these two after what we witnessed last season in the Eastern Conference semifinals? In Game 5 of that series, Durant put together arguably his greatest performance, playing in all 48 minutes to post his second career postseason triple-double. 49 points, 17 rebounds, and 10 assists, which also marked the first 45-15-10 game in the NBA playoffs. In Game 7, Antetokounmpo poured in 40 points with 13 rebounds to best the Nets in overtime. Despite Durant ranking up a game-high 48 points over 53 minutes, remember, Durant stepping on the line on what could have been the game-winning shot of Game 7 with 1 second left in regulation. More of this, please. And ladies and gentlemen, by the way, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets, they did face each other on last night's game on Thursday, as that game went to overtime and the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Brooklyn Nets in overtime by 1 point. 120-119 was your final score there. James Harden versus Kyrie Irvin. They've matched up 14 times in the regular season, with Harden owning an 8-6 record against Irving. Harden faced off against Irving earlier this month. In his first game against Brooklyn since the February trade, he shot 3 of 17 for 11 points, in addition to committing 4 turnovers in a 129-100 loss. Irving scored 22 points and went 5 of 11 from deep in Nets' victory. If these teams meet in the playoffs, perhaps Simmons is back in the mix too. Luka Doncic versus Devin Booker. Named Western Conference Player of the Week on Monday, Booker hasn't lost to Doncic and the Mavericks since the year 2019. And his 7-1 and his record is 7-1 against the Mavericks, point guard all time. Both players continue to generate serious momentum in the MVP conversation. But interestingly, it's unlikely they'd seen much of each other one-on-one. Should this potential clash materialize, Defensive Player of the Year candidate Mikal Bridges would have likely guarded Doncic, while Durant Finney-Smith, a solid stopper in his own right, would likely take on Booker. Doncic has outscored Booker in 4 of the previous matchups, out-rebounded him in 6 of them, and dished more dimes in 5. Let's move over to some NFL news. The 3 rule change under consideration by the NFL Competition Committee. Number 1, players on the kickoff team must have both feet on the ground until the ball is kicked. There can be no more than 5 players on either side of the ball, and at least 2 players must be lined up on both sides of the field between the numbers and the sideline, spreading out the formation. Number 2, the Indianapolis Colts and the Philadelphia Eagles proposed a change to overtime that requires that both teams possess the ball in the overtime period. Currently, both teams possess the ball in overtime unless a touchdown is scored on the first possession. Number 3, the Tennessee Titans proposed something different for overtime. They proposed that both teams possess the ball in the overtime period, unless the first team scores a touchdown and has a successful 2-point conversion attempt. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, it has been confirmed that the NFL has approved that for the overtime this upcoming season, both teams will be able and are eligible to have possession in overtime. If both teams score a touchdown, then it will go to sudden death, and the other team, then the next team that scores, the game is over. Pretty much, that clears the overtime between, the overtime rules. As the NFL has approved that both teams are eligible to get possession in overtime this upcoming season. Again, if both teams score in overtime, the next team to score wins. Just to confirm that, ladies and gentlemen. The Bills announced a 30-year deal for the new $1.4 billion stadium in Orchard Park. The Buffalo Bills have reached an agreement with the state of New York and Erie County on a 30-year lease for a new $1.4 billion stadium in Orchard Park, the team announced on Monday. The official groundbreaking for the new stadium, which will be open air and projects to seat about 62,000, is scheduled for the spring of 2023, with a targeted completion date of the year 2026. NFL Network Cameron Wolf reported via to Pagula Sports EVP Ron Ruscia. State and county taxpayers will be asked to commit $850 million in public funds toward construction of the stadium. New York State will commit $600 million in funds, which will be included in the budget due on Friday. Haschel announced in a press release Erie County will commit $250 million towards the project, with the NFL and the Buffalo Bills committing $550 million in financing. Let's move over to some Major League Baseball news. Major League Baseball, ladies and gentlemen, has announced the Home Run Derby X, a new tournament featuring former stars. Major League Baseball fans are getting more than one Home Run Derby this season. The league announced the launch of the Major League Home Run Derby X on Wednesday. a new event that is slanted to go on a global tour with stops in London, Seoul, and Mexico City in the year 2022. Home Run Derby X will feature former Major League stars including Adrian Gonzalez, Johnny Gomez, Giovanni Sato, and Nick Swisher, competing as part of the teams on a reduced version of the baseball field. The 4 teams competing represent 4 Major League Baseball's oldest franchise: the Red Sox, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Yankees. In each event, there will be points up for grabs from both an offensive and defensive standpoint. Each batter has an out bat that consists of 25 pitches, while 2 of their opponents will be playing in the outfield. A home run is worth 1 point, while a catch in the outfield is also worth a point. There will also be additional ways to score, such as target hits and batters hitting consecutive home runs. Let's move over to some NHL news, hockey news, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for this week. I will see you on this Sunday's live podcast from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., ladies and gentlemen. Till then, hit the like button and smash. Again, for all the sports updates at your fingertips here on our podcast, Worldwide Sport Updates, your podcast, your news, your local community, for all the latest sports updates for you guys to tune in and listen across the country, the world, wherever you may be. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great weekend, and we will interact with each other this upcoming Sunday, live this Sunday. Tune in for a live podcast sports edition for all the latest on college basketball news, NFL news, NBA news, NHL news, Major League Baseball news, and so forth and so forth. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, again, enjoy Friday and Saturday, and we'll talk soon. Have a good one. See you guys later. Bye-bye. This is Joseph Hadid, signing off.